A few minutes ago, 20 minutes ago actually, we just went live on our crowdfunding campaign for Ashes of the Chimera, the sequel to our film Voyage of the Chimera. Just give me a second here to move my notes around because I'm having to broadcast for myself using several screens here, so that's why you're seeing me looking around everywhere. I'm here with Brian Nakanishi, who played Abner Barrows in the first movie. Thanks for joining us. Brian, I almost called you Abner.
That's okay. Thanks for having me. I'm always in character.
You always are a character, right?
Yes, I try to be.
All right, so just for any new folks here, I mean, a lot of you know what's going on here. A lot of you have been following us for years, seen the first movie. But just to kind of recap real quickly, a number of years ago, I decided to make a movie. I'm not an industry guy or anything like that. Just a guy here in Colorado, Southern Colorado. And yeah, I've been wanting to make movies for years, and so I just decided to give it a shot using a lot of the computer animation techniques I'd learned over the years. And Brian showed up to our first audition. That was back in what, 2019?
I, yeah, I guess so. I mean, it was a while ago. I just remember that. I just
Yeah,
remember driving through the snow to get down to Pueblo.
yep. You came down from Colorado Springs, right?
Right, correct. Yeah.
Yeah, I do remember that night. It was I couldn't believe the number of people that showed up. There were like 100 people that showed up that night, and it was an absolute blizzard of a snowstorm here in Pueblo. It was late January.
Yeah.
But I remember the moment that you started doing your audition. I knew we wanted you for Barrows. You just had that. I don't know. You just had all those right qualities. It was funny. I think the side you chose to give us, you were like playing a smarmy lawyer, right?
It was either that or yeah, I guess maybe it was. I don't know why. Maybe it was just a character definition. I remember used car salesman like as I don't know, as some reference or whatever, but yeah, I just yeah, I mean, went in, enjoyed the process, and kind of had a handle on what you were looking for from the character. At least I thought I did. So I guess it worked out. I guess I did.
Yeah, I think so. The and we shot. I guess a few months later, we did the crowdfunding campaign just like this. I didn't really do a whole lot of live stuff like this at the time, so I'm gonna try and do that a little more this time as we go through the campaign. The movie itself, I would describe it probably as a sea story in the classic sense, even though it's a spaceship story. You know, the classic sea story is, the boy goes down to the sea, meets all these strange, fascinating people, returns home forever changed. You can see that same structure in Moby Dick, Treasure Island. You can even see it in things like The Hunt for Red October or 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea, where, Jack Ryan in Red October is essentially the boy in context of the story, finding himself amongst all these military people he doesn't have experience with. 20,000 Leagues, the professor is essentially the boy. In both cases, these people are irrevocably changed by their experience. Here, I think the unique thing is that the boy is actually the captain of the ship because of his aristocratic status. It's a bit like older navies and militaries where the aristocracy was able to basically purchase commissions for to become officers, um, and so that puts Brian. That puts you in the position to basically play mentor to the boy of the story without being the captain. How did you kind of approach that as an actor?
Yeah. So I mean, going into it, I remember us having discussions of background to just kind of develop who my character was, and certainly the references to um, submarine warfare, submarine films was really helpful to kind of get me in that mindset of where my character would be, and then kind of real life experience for me, having served in the Marines, and then working with a bunch of young actors who none of whom had any military experience. It was like, right away, it was easy to jump into that character because that's pretty much who my character is. Um, and then also um, grabbing onto that sense that my character doesn't necessarily believe in the captain of the ship at least at the outset, kind of doing a favor for a friend, and it's his son. And, I think I had a really good handle on that. And, um, you know, being the elder sage on set, it wasn't hard to grab onto that sense of the elder statesman amongst these kids who are, out running around in space. And again, through the course of that first film, finding a belief, in the captain and his reaction to certainly adverse circumstances. And then, that was a natural progression on any set. In the course of a film or a show or whatever you're doing, you gain more and more trust in actors the longer you work with them. And I think that plays out in a certain gives it a certain texture and reality within the film as well. Because I think that does happen on set the longer you work with someone. So jumping back into it, I've already established that we know each other as performers, and I think it'd be really easy to jump right back into that world.
Yeah, it's awesome. I mean, it's I don't think there were very many people in the cast who had military experience, which is actually kind of a good thing in a way because they were supposed to all be kind of green. Uh, it doesn't. It's not obvious in the film all the time, but they are essentially meant to be a bunch of landlubbers that have been brought in. A lot of them seeking essentially prize money bonuses because the ship is almost like a privateer in a way. Let's see, sorry, I'm looking at my notes here.
Yeah, no worries.
Yeah, there's a lot going on in our lives. Of course, that's a great place to kind of jump off and kind of talk about. I know, Brian, I guess you're working at doing some industry stuff. I'm all off on the side, earning my living kind of outside the movie industry, though I'm kind of moving into the independent sphere. A lot of I got laid off back in last June because we were going to try and launch the campaign in during the summer last year. Because of that, I kind of had to put everything on the back burner for a little while till now. But since then, I've moved into basically I'm working on I'm doing a lot of animation for a basically an art film. There's a composer. His name's Paul Brill. He's done a bunch of documentaries, mostly scoring documentaries, including one of James Cameron's later Titanic documentaries, which I was impressed to see that on his resume.
Yeah.
But he cut an album a number of years ago. It's a very personal project to him, where he wants where we're working on basically an animated film of. He's already produced it as a ballet. And so that's what I'm working on these days is animating on that. It's a lot different than Chimera, obviously, because I'm more of a. I don't want to call myself a gun for hire because I have to bring a lot of myself to it. But it's it's on Chimera. I'm used to serving my own vision, but on this, I'm serving someone else's vision.
Sure.
And so it's a it's a different kind of thing, and it's interesting to be on that other side of the coin. But that's what I've been working on these days is a whole lot of animation, combining two-dimensional stuff with 3D. Chimera was mostly done with a lot of 3D computer animation, very industrial, very blocky kind of stuff. The stuff I've been working on to earn a living right now, it's almost Tim Burton-esque in its style, and it's it's the kind of thing I never thought I'd be working on, but it's fascinating, and it's great because it keeps me working in the sphere even when I'm not working on Chimera.
Right.
Do you mind talking about what you've been up to lately, Brian?
Yeah, sure. So, I'm always kind of in the acting realm. I mean, that's I've done stunt work and and acted in a lot of indie stuff, some big productions. The last kind of big film I did, I worked in a Dave Bautista film. I do a lot of that stuff down in Albuquerque. because it is so close to Colorado. But really, in the last 3 years, I've worked predominantly a lot more on the production side. So,
Mm.
and mostly television production. So I've done some game shows, did a cooking show, which was fantastic. Um, I've done a few seasons of Love Island, which is kind of funny. This business, it's so much word of mouth. And I had a friend of mine, another producer, call and say, "Hey, do you want to, work on the show and come out to Santa Barbara for a few months?" And they said, "Love Island, never seen it, didn't know what it was." But I was like, "Yeah, sure, Santa Barbara, for 4 months in the summer, on somebody else's, yeah, tab. Why not?" And then my daughter said to me, "Dad, have you ever seen Love Island? Do you know what that show is?" I was like, "I have no idea." Um, so it was really interesting, though, working reality television on the production side. It's a 24-hour day operation, a crew of up to 700 people at times, to keep that thing going. So that was a real education. And it's interesting because the content itself, not necessarily my cup of tea, but it's been really interesting to work on that. And then on the other side of that, I worked for about 2.5 years on After the First 48. They kind of worked different schedules, so I was kind of working both at the same time, and that was really interesting. I mean, that was a true crime documentary. So again, totally different sphere than my as an actor working in fiction, obviously, and again being on the other side of the camera, and all that was real education. And then really in the last year or so, in addition to the acting here and there, I've been developing a lot of stuff as far as film and television. So I do have one thing that's kind of loosely negotiating with Netflix, that I hope to get out, which is a series of kind of developing that with them. So yeah, it's kind of, I think in this industry, a long time ago, somebody said this whole business is, particularly acting, but really the whole industry, it's a business of yes. Like these opportunities pop up, um, you'll kind of start maybe hemming and hawing about, well, I have no idea how to do that or how that works. But if somebody's offering you the opportunity, you just say yes, you figure it out along the way, make yourself open to advice and information and open to making mistakes. Um, kind of relating it back to this experience with our project with Chimera, it was interesting. You never know what you're walking into in any indie production. You don't know if it's going to be, one guy with a handheld, running in circles around you out in a field. And I was really impressed when I got on set. I mean, as far as having, when you're used to working on bigger productions, the call sheet and how everything's going to work out that day is really down to the minute almost. And again, indie productions, you never know what you're going to get. This was very structured. I mean, walking on set with Michael, we knew what we were doing that day. He had uh, basically animated storyboards set up for us so that we could really get a sense of where we were, because working green screen, complete green screen like that, we could at least see somewhere something tangible, because you obviously can't see it on set.
Mhm.
So throughout production, for somebody who is a novice filmmaker, and working through some of those challenges together, really was a great experience. And I was really impressed with how all that worked.
Aw.
And, uh, you know, down to, and it's funny when you work at this business, they'll know exactly what I'm talking about. Um, his wife's catering for us was phenomenal. And let me just tell you something. If you keep
Yeah.
actors fat and happy, you
Yeah.
keep them um, it's a big thing. And like people
Yeah.
can laugh about it, but every actor will tell you that if they're taken care of, um, you know, uh, it's such a simple thing, but it matters and it means something. So, again, it's just an illustration of kind of top to bottom beyond the technical aspects, keeping us fed. I mean, all those things were done extremely well, and it was such a great experience. And I remember, I can't remember, there was some trepidation, I think, for Michael at times, just because sometimes I do work on these, big productions. I mean, it's great. It's a lot of fun. They have huge budgets. There's hundreds of crew members and everything. But this project in particular is very personal to me. And, I told Mike, I said, whenever you need me, let me know. I have no problem. I want to do this. I loved the experience the first time around. And anytime Michael calls, I'll be there. So, yeah, I'm looking forward to kind of getting back into Abner's head and working on Michael's vision a little more. And just to speak, I'm curious to see his evolution as a director was phenomenal throughout the shoot. Um, you know, he got so much more comfortable relatively quickly with asking for more takes, like to make sure that his vision was, what you were going to get in the
One
can.
more.
Yeah, get one more take, So, but it's true. Like when you get in the editing room, you can't go back if you don't have the take.
Yep.
There's nothing you can do. So better to get, more rather than less. Especially in the digital age, it's a lot easier. You're not paying for film while you're shooting. So yeah, I'm excited to see Michael as a director on this second time around. So see what happens.
Well, on that note, I'm excited to see what you do with Abner the second time around. I think the second movie gives you a little more to chew on in terms of a bit of an arc for him. Because I mean, it was designed as the pilot. That first movie was designed as a long TV pilot. Before I realized just how difficult it is to sell that, in terms of a micro budget pilot. It's much easier to distribute and sell and get people to watch a micro budget film that is a micro budget pilot episode or series. And it's the sort of thing that you don't really think about when you're not in that space, but it changes the way you approach it. And so, we kind of found ourselves kind of retooling things into a trilogy of movies thusly. And so we're kind of, in these next two movies, we're kind of shift up the arcs and, move them a bit faster, more, film style than TV style. But I'm really excited to see how you bring that to life and some of the, the spots that Abner finds himself in where he's trying to advise Marcus, without giving too much away of the next two stories, of course, where he's trying to advise Marcus, but it's also almost going at cross purposes to the fact that he's kind of done with this stuff and, wants to go home and so on. So I'm I'm really interested to see where that goes. Yeah, it's funny you talk about the, the experience on set and the food, that because that tracks with, it's funny because as a director, you're in that spot where you're trying to, producer director, you're running a set and you're trying to make a movie, but at the same time, you're trying to gauge your people and, kind of have an idea of where they're at. And as a novice, it was my first, movie, really, my first commercial movie. I made 2 movies on my own when I was younger, but, that's all stuff me hiding in my basement when I was like 18 or whatever, fiddling around with computer animation. That's stuff that'll probably never see the light of day.
Robert Rodriguez has made a career out of fiddling around in his basement, with CGI.
See, that's what I thought I was going to do going on to this. I'm going to Robert Rodriguez the whole thing.
Right.
Of course, you get on there, you find it's a lot harder than you think it is. Rodriguez is so good at that sort of free-flowing kind of take what you have and, make it happen sort of thing, kind of go with what you have. And we were able to do that to a certain degree too, and I think we can do that more on the next one. But because this is technically a visual effects movie, because everything is digital, all the sets are digital, you do have to plan that out, at least somewhat, to try and make sure you hit the vision. You have to have an idea ahead of time, what you're going to hit, and a plan for doing it. So that's what all the testing was beforehand, and that's partially what the animatic was. For me to put it together, you talked about the storyboard, I was able to bring on set. We basically cut that together. You probably never saw this, but I read the whole script off just recording it. It's a horrible script read, listening to me trying to emote all these parts. I'm not an actor. But, I just basically cut all that together as a movie, and I still have it somewhere. You can look at it, but having that on set is very, helpful because you can show the actors where they are, so they're not just standing in green space. And if you have a plan, you're trying to hit the plan. You're not just making everything up. But I was
Well,
amazed by. Oh, go ahead.
no, I was just going to say, honestly, beyond internal monologue and character development that I think I can work with Abner's film. I think technically as an actor, having seen, we didn't really have sit downs with dailies to kind of go over. We might see, oh, this shot was great, and we'd rewatch it, but getting to see everything put together and having more of a technical understanding of what this looks like. To be honest, it kind of informs, I think, how to perform because you know when you look at the greats, I mean, the greats as far as film actors, right? They understand certain things just about spacing and pace, and things about film, and it can be slightly different from one project to the next. And with this one, definitely watching it, and you're always critical of yourself. But for my own performance, I was like, wow, like I really could have played it more to this. This is the space I'm working in, and kind of having a better understanding after seeing the whole story play out from that first film. It has energized me to even adapt that a little bit. Okay, I have more of an understanding of what the final product will look like. And again, not necessarily the emotional component, but the technical component as an actor. It's really given me a lot to think about and to chew on and to get excited to get back in front of the camera and kind of utilize that to again, as you said, making someone else's vision come true, or so, giving someone else's vision life. This is giving your vision life, and I remember telling you that before. Like you tell us what to do. This is,
Mm-hmm.
we're clay, we're your tools. So I'm excited to get back in there and do that again, and hopefully everyone elevates and we take it to another level.
Yeah, and I have to say, I mean that seems to have been a sentiment echoed by pretty much everybody. Because I mean, I went into this expecting, okay, at least one place there's going to be some sort of big ego problem, where either I get too big for my britches or someone else is making trouble. But it was a remarkably trouble-free set. I thought. I mean, everyone was there just to do the work and make the story happen. Everyone was really quite committed, and it was a blast that way. It's real work though. It's easy if you're not making movies. It's easy to think it's all just fun and games, but it burns you out. You know. We shot a bunch of weekends last time. I think we're gonna have to do a couple this time. We're gonna try and do like a big block of 6 days at one point, because this is a longer script. There's more that has to be done in it. We're trying to up our game, and that's one of the reasons the budget is higher this time, is because we want to be able to sustain it over those. Let's see, we shot 17 days on the first one. I think we're going to shoot 21 this time. I think in a lot of ways we can shoot faster, but it's still going to take a little bit more because this isn't going to be a 90-minute movie. This is going to be more like a 2-hour movie. We go a bit of a distance in the second script, I think, and so there's a lot to get in there.
Yeah, I mean that's the business. Like normally, as an actor, you're never looking at less than a 12-hour day. Now, granted, obviously for actors, you're not necessarily acting for 12 hours at a time, which is that's the director gets to work for the full 12 hours, when they reset and, you have to everything that goes on behind the scenes. I think it was, I don't know, it's Morgan Freeman. There was somebody that said, actors get paid more for waiting than anything else. But yeah, those are long days. But, I wouldn't have it any other way. And, especially sometimes you use that, and you're in that headspace for 12 hours in that character of trying to stay there. And, sometimes those later hours in the day, certain things, bubble up within your character that, you always try to bring it from the moment, first your action that day. But sometimes in the course of the day, like you find little nooks and crannies of that character that you can bring to life. So yeah, I personally enjoy the long days.
Well, often it's those little moments that make everything. And it's things oftentimes that you can't plan. I mean, you can write this stuff down, and I can come in saying, oh, do it like this. I need to get this moment. But oftentimes it's those unplanned things. It's just an offhand way you roll an eye or curl a lip just a little bit, or just that little pause in between this word and that word that suddenly makes the moment memorable. And it's those wonderful, I don't want to call them happy accidents, but it's those things that just happen that oftentimes make the production in the end, I think.
Yeah, absolutely.
The let's see, we've been talking a lot about the experience of shooting. And of course, there's that Brian mentioned. You got to keep your actors fed. That's definitely something I found. Seriously, just buy a lot of chips, a lot of apples, a lot of water, and coffee, and
Oh,
maybe bring them some donuts. Because I don't know about everyone else, but I found myself eating so many apples on set just because I'm running back and forth. I just found myself just chewing on apples and drinking water half the time. And it's amazing how that just kind of keeps you going and keeps the energy up. Just that simple, just keep yourself fed.
yeah, caffeine and calories, and I'll go as long as you need me to go. That's fine. Like that's all I need. Yeah, the caffeine is essential.
Yeah. The I don't know. Of course, nothing ever goes perfectly. I mean, we had all kinds of. We kept as we started wearing into the summer, the room we were shooting in started getting hot, and so we had to start turning on the I don't know, the air conditioner started turning on and messing up the sound, so we'd have to turn it off and back on. I'm not sure the location liked that much in the end because we were just doing that, but I mean, we were alternately boiling and hearing all the roar of that, and then there were the trains outside.
Trains, bikers,
The bikers, yes.
yeah, like, yeah. I mean, again, that's just it's par for the course, really. That's one of those things. It doesn't matter how big the production is. You'll have the random helicopter, airplane fly over. The train go by. The biker gang happens to roll through, whatever
Yep.
it is. But yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, check out the outtake reel. You can find it on YouTube. It's the number of times where people are talking. There's dramatic moments, and then there's just and it's very loud. The
Yeah,
the mics picked it up so well. It's just great. But it's also amazing how much of that I was able to filter out because there were some times when those trains were just sitting there idling outside with that low frequency rumble, and we just
right.
said, we got to go for this, and we just shot it, and fortunately, we were able to filter it out in the end.
Yeah. But the one thing I always tell people that I believe, for an actor, the art is not just is the whole process. It's not the final product that gets cut together and everything else. And it's not even just what's on camera. It's the interaction you have, on set, from the minor things, like I said, like sitting down to a meal together, and kind of laughing and letting go of whatever tension or emotion you have in the scenes you've been shooting, and laughing about the bikers that just went through. And to me, that all is part of the art that, for me, every single time,
Yeah.
because it's also what you're taking away from it. Because we all now have those memories of that train going by, of the bikers, idling their bikes outside. Again, to me, it's all process, and that's all part of the process. And what you get to take away from it. It's, again, not just what is the final product.
Mhm.
It's everything else. It's just like, a great painter. The process of creating that painting, the end product is not the art in and of itself. It's the whole process of getting there. It's
Mhm.
every brush stroke. It's every decision along the way. And there's no more collaborative process, to me, artistic process, than film, with the number of elements that go into it, with the number of people that are involved, with, again, every actor making an artistic choice on every line they deliver. The director's making that artistic choice on what he wants from those actors. The cinematography, how it's lit, it's all such. It's such a
Mhm.
huge process.
Even on
And
a
to
little micro
me,
budget like ours, yeah.
right, it's such a shared experience. And again, that to me is the art as much as whatever you put out at the very end.
Yeah, and everyone finds themselves doing other things. Like Kyle Cordova, who plays the young captain Marcus. There's a bit where Laura she had some other commitments. That's Laura, my wife, producer and caterer. She brings the food in. It was like it was some sort of chicken thing in a crock pot, and it's supposed to be shredded chicken, right? But it's all together. She tells me I didn't have time to shred this. I gotta run. Sorry, thanks. Mwah, bye. So she sets it down. I call lunch. I go over there and I pick up a fork and I just go, uh, because I mean, it's the stupidest thing. It's like a bachelor moment, right? How do I shred the chicken? Anyone watching this is probably going, well, you pull the forks and you do the. But I'm standing there, half fried from a day of filmmaking, going, I don't know what to do with this. Where's a knife? I'll just cut off slices like it's roast beef or something. Kyle comes up and just says, let me, because Kyle was working as a chef at the time. So Kyle just grabs the forks and just starts tearing it apart. And it just, and all through the shoot there was stuff like that. Sean Bidwell really was a huge help on set. He's technically our production manager, doing a lot of the paperwork, writing down, the technical stuff of the shots. But he was filling in all kinds of other places. So was Tanya Stoddard, the first AD. Tanya got brought in by our executive producer, kind of last minute. And there's a whole story behind that. We got about 4 minutes before we got to get off this thing, and Zoom kicks us off because I'm too cheap to buy a pro subscription. But yeah, contribute to our project, and we can buy a pro subscription to Zoom and have longer live broadcasts. There we go. But yeah, there's a whole story behind that, but. Like I said earlier, I was trying to Robert Rodriguez the whole thing, and it's hard, but it was a wonderful blessing that those folks stepped in, and to be AD and production manager, and then helping out so much. I mean, they were basically playing gaffer and best boy and electrician, half the time also. And
Absolutely.
I mean, that's how it is on a set like this. I've never worked on a big set. I did a thing in Santa Monica in the early 2000s where we shot a World War II short on board the SS Lane Victory out in Long Beach. The USS Missouri is tied up there now, but at the time it was the SS Lane Victory, a merchant marine ship, and that's the closest thing I've had to a Hollywood production. And it was interesting. It was interesting seeing how they tried to make this little low budget thing work in that way. But even then everyone's still filling in, filling in the cracks here and there. Yeah, so since we're running out of time here, we got 3 minutes. Let's see, we'll go ahead and I guess probably wrap up here. Just a couple quick things. The campaign is running for 30 days. So April 24th will be the last day. We're trying to raise $25,000. We've got a lot of really cool perks, including copies of the film, free copies of the first film also, if you don't have them already. Lots of different stuff. Being able to name people and places in the story, which you'll be able to see on screens and so on. Since I didn't talk about that today, I should probably do another one of these maybe tomorrow and talk about that stuff specifically. But yeah, 30 seconds. Do you have kind of some last words?
No, I would just say for those of you that are contemplating this, it's kind of a neat way to be part of a film, Every dime that you give, trust me, is put to good use. I mean, in these indie projects, you stretch every penny, and Michael did a great job of it, and I think it shows up on screen. So, we appreciate all of it. Every hard-earned dollar. We know how things are today. Can be tough, but we definitely appreciate it. And if you're able to, and you definitely are absolutely a part of this film, if you can help us out in that way, and we love it and we appreciate it. And like I said, every single penny is valued and appreciated.
On that note, we've got our first pledge of $500, which is awesome. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
Absolutely. That's a fantastic start here. Looking forward to seeing how this builds. Let's see. I've only got a few seconds left here before I got to be done. But thank you everybody for joining us. Hopefully you'll keep following us. Please contribute if you can. Looking forward to continuing this film series and bringing the story to life. Thanks for joining me, Brian.
Thanks so much. Have a good day, Mike.
You too.